The morning sun poured through the glass walls of the Sterling Ventures building, turning every polished surface into a sheet of gold. And right in the middle of the blinding, perfect world walked a small 12-year-old girl named Elara Vance, clutching a worn leather portfolio to her chest as if it were the last piece of truth she had left. Her backpack straps were frayed. Her shoes were dusted white from long miles of walking, and her breathing trembled with both fear and determination. As she pushed open the heavy doors, dozens of suited employees glanced at her with confused curiosity. But Elara kept moving, her eyes fixed ahead. She had come to return something she'd found on a bench in City Square Park 3 days prior, something that felt too important to ignore. But what she wasn't prepared for was the laughter that greeted her when she finally stepped into the office of one of the city's most powerful men. Elara had never been inside a place like this. The floor smelled faintly of sandalwood and lemon polish. The air hummed with a quiet, efficient energy, and everyone looked important, busy, untouchable. The receptionist stared at her for a long moment before pointing the way to a large corner office. That was where she found Julian Sterling, the venture capitalist whose face was familiar from business news channels, sitting behind a vast, minimalist desk with a smile that looked more like a calculated gesture than a genuine feeling. His suit was immaculate, his expression one of mild, dismissive amusement. Elara swallowed her fear and stepped forward, extending the portfolio with both hands. It wasn't heavy, but it felt like it held the weight of a secret. Inside were sheaves of intricate hand-drawn sketches, architectural blueprints, and pages of handwritten notes she couldn't fully decipher. She only knew the name embossed on the cover, Alistair Finch, and that it must belong to someone here, not Julian. Sterling didn't even look at the portfolio first. He looked at her, then at his assistant, then leaned back in his chair and let out a short, sharp laugh that echoed in the quiet room. His assistant offered a polite, complicit chuckle. Julian assumed she was part of a corporate prank, a misguided charity case, or simply a nuisance. Elara's heart squeezed, but she stood her ground. She explained finding the portfolio on a wrought iron bench, how she'd kept it dry under her bed, and how she'd used the library computer to trace the Sterling Ventures address from a logo on one of the documents. Every word seemed to deepen his amusement. Julian waved a hand dismissively, as if shooing away a minor irritation. In that moment, Elara wished she had never come. Her life, shared with her grandfather, in a small walk-up where the radiators clanged and dinner was often simple, had taught her scarcity but also integrity. She used the same backpack until the seams wore thin. She did her homework by the light of a sturdy old lamp. She still believed lost things should be returned, even when the world seemed too busy to notice. The walk to the tower had taken her 90 minutes, her feet sore in her worn shoes. She had come because her grandfather always said, "The right path is often the one that's hardest to walk." As Julian's laughter faded into a condescending smile, Elara lowered her head, doubt clouding her resolve. Perhaps she had been foolish. Perhaps these beautiful drawings were just trash to the people here. But then the office door opened, and an elderly man with a gentle, weathered face stepped inside, leaning on a polished mahogany cane. His name was Alistair Finch, a renowned, now retired architectural historian. His eyes, sharp and perceptive behind his glasses, immediately locked onto the portfolio in Elara's hands. Recognition, then profound relief, washed over his features. Alistair moved toward her, his cane tapping a soft rhythm on the floor. He asked her, his voice quiet, where she had found it. Elara told him everything: the park, the bench, the rain she'd dodged, her search, the long walk. As she spoke, Alistair's hands trembled slightly. The portfolio contained his life's work on the restoration of the historic Avalon Theater original sketches, irreplaceable research, and personal notations he believed were lost forever when his bag had come undone. Julian Sterling's smile vanished. Alistair turned to him, not with anger, but with a deep, weary disappointment. He explained that this young girl had salvaged a piece of the city's soul, a project built on memory and craft, not just profit. The billionaire who had laughed moments ago now looked chastened, a flush of embarrassment creeping up his neck. For the first time, Elara saw a crack in Julian's polished exterior, a glimpse of something uncertain and human. Alistair thanked Elara with a sincerity that made her eyes sting. He asked about her life, her grandfather, her school. As she answered softly, Julian finally seemed to see her not as a disruption, but as a person of remarkable character, moved by her honesty. Alistair insisted on repaying her not with a fleeting reward, but with a promise. He offered to mentor her, to share his knowledge of history and design, and to ensure she had the resources she needed for her education. Julian, humbled, offered a sincere apology, first to Elara, then to Alistair. The atmosphere in the room shifted, the artificial chill melting into something warmer, more genuine. Julian himself walked her out of the office, a silent, profound gesture that left the open-plan floor in a hushed stillness. Elara stepped back into the golden sunlight, a strange, buoyant feeling in her chest. It wasn't triumph, but a quiet certainty. She had done the right thing. She walked home under the warm sky, the ache in her feet forgotten, not knowing that her single act of integrity had just quietly altered the course of several lives, proving that even in the shadow of glass towers, kindness could find a way to resonate. Like, subscribe, and comments below about story.